right. And now we're at that part of the week where we're looking ahead. We're going into the quarterfinals of the playoffs. Week one is in the books. We had some upsets, we had some close ones. And now we're looking ahead at some exciting matchups, and each week is getting more and more exciting. We've got our head to heads in the Valley, and we've got some compelling matchups. We're going to start in open division and just get right into this baby. Birmingham officially begins their title defense in the playoffs as the number 7 seed, visiting Venice, number 2. That right there is going to be insane. Kenny and I said it when we did our bracket breakdown. We think if Birmingham can get past Venice, they're going to find a way into the final. This is a big one this weekend. Into D1, Granada Hills is coming off that big win against Canoga. They're getting Southgate, and that's a physical Southgate front. So we'll have to see what they do there. Cleveland is coming off that exciting game where Corey Hall was Mr. Everything against Lincoln, and they get Fairfax coming in. And that was a Fairfax team that just eked out a one possession win over El Camino. Going into D2, we've got the top seed's been bumped, and number 8 Kennedy is going to host number 16 Taft. This is a big Valley matchup. Kennedy has a chance to really put their stamp on making a run. Taft has a chance to say they're going to be the ones to make that run. North Hollywood coming in off a big win against Legacy. Ronnie Gibson was Mr. Do-It-All for them. They're traveling to Marquez as the 5 seed into the 4. Panorama is hosting King Drew, and we think that's going to be a bit of a slugfest. And in D3, Chatsworth is hosting Fremont, and number 10 Verdugo Hills is traveling to number 2 Crenshaw. And that, in my bracket, is upset alert. Because Verdugo Hills really believes in what they're doing, regardless of how they ended the regular season against North Hollywood. The last few weeks, they were putting some things together. So they believe that they are the team to upset. And that's the look right there. We've got 5 games in the southern section. 2 of them are in the D2 section bracket. Sierra Canyon is going to J. Sarah in Gardena. And Chaminade is going into San Clemente. That's going to be an interesting one. Over in D5, Alamany is making that long drive to San Bernardino to face Aquinas. In D6, Calabasas is making another trek, pretty out there, going out to Ramona. And in D11, Campbell Hall heads out to Walnut. We got some interesting setups here, interesting matchups. Kenny, Kaylie, chime in. We'll start with Kenny, and Kaylie, you can jump in whenever. Let's hear what you guys got.
Starting in open, very intrigued to see what Birmingham has up their sleeve this year. They're the reigning open champs. They're the kings of the city. But these teams that they're in this bracket with have been gearing up for the last couple of years, for this year, for this moment, to knock them out. And this first round matchup that they drew against Venice, where everybody knows that Venice is stacked. They got big guys along the front. They are very menacing, a very imposing team. But Birmingham, as sitting here as a 7, feels a little bit like a false seed. This feels like this could be a setup for Venice to get knocked off in the first round. But if Venice were to knock them off, it would send shockwaves through the rest of that portion of that city bracket, because then it's all this San Pedro and Franklin and Garfield and Roosevelt and these teams that got a lot of shining attention this year would know then that the blood is in the water and the city is there for the taking. But until somebody beats Birmingham, it's still Birmingham's. They still own the city right now. They've owned it for a few years, and until somebody beats them, we'll see if Venice can get it done. In terms of like Division One, I know Kaylie will have some things to say about these matchups because she's seen these teams as well. And it's just going to be interesting to see how these two teams, these two reps from the Valley who made it to the second round, to see how they follow up their performances. One in Granada Hills that had a real dominant performance in the first round, and then Cleveland, who survived by the skin of their teeth with a heroic performance by their star player. So to see how these teams kind of attack these next round matchups is going to be really intriguing to see. What do you think, Kaylie?
Well, aside from the potential to see them play each other in another week, obviously I want both Granada and Cleveland to walk away from the next round. I've seen Southgate play, and that team at the beginning of the season looked really good. I didn't get to see Granada. I've seen Granada 3 times now, but I didn't get to see them until later this season, maybe when they were a little bit seasoned and everything was tightened up and they were already a well-oiled machine. But Southgate came out of the gate nice. They came out of the gate impressive. They definitely caught my eye. Granted, oh my God, I'm just coming off puns today. Granted, they faced Grant the first time I saw them, so maybe the competition level wasn't as high there. But I am excited to see those two teams go up against each other just to round out the whole season for me, because that was week 1 versus last week. So everything will come full circle for me when I get to see the two of them play. And, fingers crossed for Granada. It sounds biased, but only because I really want to see them face Cleveland the next week. And then as far as the Cleveland game goes, Corey Hall, I've been a fan of him since y'all told me who he was. So ever since I've known about this kid, and I knew that he played for the Cleveland Cavaliers, being from the 216 myself, I'm like, I got to meet this kid, Corey, who's the Cleveland All-Star. The two Cleveland All-Stars need to meet each other. The other one being me, of course. But I'm excited to see what, he promised me. At the end of the regular season, he promised me he had something cooking up for playoffs, and so I'm excited to continue seeing him play.
And boy, did he. Now, for them, Fairfax, when you looked on social media, people who support that team, a lot of people in and around that program felt like they were undefeated, and the fact that they went and they beat El Camino in the first round, they went out of their way to prove that maybe they were undefeated and they shouldn't have been the 13. So Cleveland better be on their game a little better than they were against Lincoln, or else they might be on upset alert again. And for us rooting for Valley teams, we don't want that. Division 2, like I said, this is the Valley bracket. We had the most teams here. This is the bracket that still has the most teams in it. We got that head-to-head with Taft and Kennedy. That's just that game is going to be a fight. Taft had a up and down season last year, ran the table in Division 3, kind of set the tone right away that they were going to be a problem by going on the road and beating Monroe, the number 1 seed, right out of the gate. That's going to set anybody who sees them, who remembers what they did last year, going to see that and go, uh-oh, this might be a problem. And Kennedy, they were kind of the darlings going into the year. It was a little bit up and down, but they've got the horses to do it. They just, Taft is going to come in there to give them a fight. NoHo, we talked about Ronnie Gibson. We talked about how good he was last week. Now he's got to take that show on the road. Let's see if that all them yards he got last week, if he can go replicate that on the road at Marquez. And Marquez, even though we don't talk a lot about them on these parts, that team won 9 games already this year. So that's not going to be easy for them to go in there and beat that team. And Panorama King Drew, I'm just expecting a dogfight here. You just kind of get the sense when you look at what King Drew has done this year and the kind of teams they've had to deal with on their end of the city. That's not a team that's going to come in here looking to lay down. That's going to be a team that comes in there looking to throw some haymakers of their own and see if they can pull an upset and get to the semis. When it looks like the Division 2 is up for grabs, especially with Monroe getting knocked out. When you see the number 1 team get knocked out in a bracket, everybody's going to look around like, I got a shot. This might be my year. And in terms of D3, obviously we talked about we expect Chatsworth to roll, but the funny thing about Chatsworth is we expect them to roll, but are they going to? It started, I'm not gonna lie, it was one of the games I was watching. I was a little surprised when I was looking up and it was 14 or 14-12 with Diego Rivera, and I'm like, are y'all gonna do this? Are y'all really gonna do this in the first round? But then they figured it out, and Ramo started doing Ramo stuff and started running all over the doggone place. Expect him to do that again this week. See if he has another 200-yard performance. And Verdugo Hills, that is not going to be easy for them to go on the Crenshaw and win that game. But we know Coach Sean Jackson, and we believe in Coach Jackson. And if Coach Jackson says that he thinks he can win a game, I'm not going to count him out. They just went on the road to Southeast and only let those guys get 2 points. So we're going to see. I mean, it's still fun. It's exciting. Like I said, we still got a lot of teams that have a chance to go a long way, and it's going to be fun. Can't wait for it.
Yeah, and I'm going to add a little bit more sauce into that D2, because having seen all of them, the literal answer is, outside of what I would like to happen, I'm like, these are going to be some battles. North Hollywood is going to they're going to need Thunder and Lightning. They're going to need Ronnie Gibson to do what he just did, and they're going to need Jalen Burt to probably do more than 100 yards on the ground. But the other thing with North Hollywood is when they're both getting touches, I think they both had 12 and 16 touches. Jalen had 12. Ronnie had 16. And the way they run their offense, they drain the clock, and a lot of times they don't need more touches than that. Mm-hmm. So if these guys are able to get their 12, 13, 14, 15 touches, that means they're probably able to put up the yards. And so that's what I'm looking for. Them getting their touches, them putting up their yards, so that way they can chew the clock, which is their specialty. And even when they break them, the next time they get the ball, they're going to try to chew clock and not let you have a chance to do anything. That offensive line is young, but they're cohesive. And so and they're undersized. But outside of that, they put in work. And that Panorama team, they're bullies. They bullied everybody. And that's the thing, is they didn't let Canoga Park bully them. They were in that fight. Mm-hmm. They lost by 2 scores. They weren't bullied. And we saw what they did at Kennedy a couple weeks ago. They just were like, oh, we're going to be Pythons, and we're going to choke the life out of you. Mm-hmm. And so that's going to be a dogfight. Kennedy and Taft, we've touched on, if Kennedy's offense can do what they've done and just kind of keep the pace up, their defense, I think, is good enough to do to Taft what Monroe did last week. Taft capitalized on mistakes. Outside of Monroe mistakes, all they were able to do was run the clock and then have a drive end on 4th down. Run the clock, punt away. That Monroe defense was not giving up anything. So if this Kennedy defense can do what they've done to most everybody in terms of just being solid and strong and play clean, they could probably get it done. But again, Taft has shown that they will take your mistakes and make you pay. So Kennedy's got to stay clean.
Oh, and the one thing, because I forgot to throw it in there talking about the Southern section, Chaminade was the best team, the best Valley representative in the Southern section all year until they ran into Sierra Canyon late in the year and got beat up 49-14, and then they weren't. And I know the talk around that program was they wanted to get in the playoffs and show everybody that was a blip on the radar. That one loss on the year wasn't representative of who they were, but the playoff pressure almost got to them the first week, and they a 2-point conversion away from getting knocked off and would have been one of probably the biggest upset in round one in the entire Southern section had they lost that game. They're going to need to bounce back this week because everybody kind of earmarked the way that they played all year and the way Sierra Canyon came on at the end. Now, a lot of people think that that's the D2 championship, but they almost ruined that getting bumped in the first round. So it's going to be interesting to see how that team bounces back this week, having to go on the road and try to handle business. And Sierra Canyon too. Sierra Canyon has got a tough one with Sarah. I think they beat them this year. I can't recall off the top of my head, but I know they played. But Sierra Canyon's got to do a little better than they did last week against Warren, because Warren was a 40-yard field goal away from knocking them out as well. So those Southern section teams got to get their stuff together too in that D2. So yes, so the bottom line is there's a ton of great action everywhere, and we're looking forward to all of it.
Yeah, and as we say every week, we're out here, we're watching, we're keeping our eye out, we're looking for your stories. And if you've got a story that we haven't talked about, let us know in the comments, email us, send us a DM on Twitter, hit us up on Instagram, because we're looking for stories that no one is talking about. And we know there's plenty out there. And if you've got them, we'll talk about it. So don't be afraid to reach out to us. We're always listening. We're always watching. And good luck in that sense.
And Chavez, don't y'all worry about it.
Much talent, much heart, and much love to all of you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting us, sharing all of our Instagram reels, inviting us back to your games next week. We love getting the invites. We love seeing that you guys are appreciating what we're posting about you. That's what we do it all for, is to provide a platform for, like I said, all the talent and all the heart that these kids bring every single week.
And the last thing I'm going to say is Chavez forever. They got us this year. But you better get us now, because you won't get us next year. D2 champions Chavez next year. I'm calling it now. You heard me. You heard what I said. I didn't stutter either. They got us now, but they won't get us later. That's all I got to say.
And with that, we will see you all next week. Good luck.
Peace.